Buffy Saint-Marie. Narcissist? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many of you have asked me to put the Canadian icon under the Tudorscope to make a determination as to what she is, to address the question of whether she is a narcissist. This has been prompted by a recent exposé which has suggested that she has lied about her ancestry. More about that later. Many of you will be familiar with Buffy Saint-Marie, but those of you who are not, let's find out more about her. And we're going to take this introductory information from her own website. The About section tells us that Buffy Saint-Marie is believed to have been born in 1941 on the Piapot First Nation Reserve in Saskatchewan, and taken from her biological parents when she was an infant. She was adopted by a visibly white couple and raised in Maine and Massachusetts. As a child, Buffy's adoptive mother self-identified as part Micmac, but knew little about indigenous culture. She encouraged Buffy to find things out for herself when she grew up. By the age of 4, Buffy had taught herself to play the piano by ear and was making up songs for fun. The gift of a guitar for her 16th birthday made her music portable. She invented new tunings which would influence both her own unique sound and that of other future musicians like Joni Mitchell. At university, Buffy earned undergraduate degrees in both Oriental philosophy and education. Upon graduation, she began singing in coffee houses in New York's Greenwich Village, leading to her first recording contract and the extensive touring that launched Buffy to international stardom. From the late 1960s through the 1970s, she expanded both her music and visual art into experimental technologies that evolved into what is now called digital art and electronic music. Since 1983, Buffy has been the recipient of 15 honorary degrees from universities across Turtle Island, including an honorary PhD in fine art from the University of Massachusetts. Since her groundbreaking debut album, 1964's It's My Way, the Cree singer-songwriter has been an informative trailblazer and advocate for indigenous rights, a continually evolving artist, and a contributor of positive thinking and resiliency amid difficult issues. With songs like Universal Soldier and Until It's Time for You to Go, Buffy established herself among the ranks of songwriter greats. Throughout her career, Buffy has devoted much of her time and resources to supporting indigenous peoples through a variety of educational programs. Her Nyawan Foundation for Native American Education provided scholarships for indigenous studies and students, 2 of whom became presidents of tribal colleges, and her Cradleboard teaching project provided accurate core curriculum including science, government and geography based in Native American cultural perspectives for all grade levels. In 1998, Buffy Saint-Marie received the Native Americans in Philanthropy's Louis T. Delgado Award for Native American Philanthropist of the Year, and, for the next 12 years, combined her work in education with her writing, visual art, recording and touring. Most recently, Buffy released 2 critically acclaimed albums, Power in the Blood in 2015 and Medicine Songs 2017, collectively winning multiple Juno Awards and the highly coveted Polaris Music Prize. In 2017, Buffy received the Alan Waters Humanitarian Award, and she opened the Juno Awards national telecast with a riveting introduction that went off script when she acknowledged that Ottawa is on the unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe nations, who have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. In 2019, Buffy was named a Companion of the Order of Canada, the nation's highest civilian honour. In 2020, Buffy released her debut children's book, Hey Little Rockabye, while her 1964 album It's My Way won the Slate Family Polaris Heritage Prize, awarded to albums that have remained culturally relevant decades after their release. 2021 celebrated Buffy's 80th birthday with recognition for her lifetime of contribution as a musical and visual artist, as well as activist, educator, and philanthropist dedicated to indigenous rights. Still on the road performing, Buffy was recently celebrated at the National Arts Centre for Canada Post's unveiling of her commemorative stamp, as well as appearing in Los Angeles for a special tribute from the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, acknowledging Buffy Saint-Marie as the first indigenous person ever to win an Oscar for writing the hit song Up Where We Belong from an officer and a gentleman. Since her groundbreaking debut, 1964's It's My Way, the Cree singer-songwriter has been a trailblazer and a tireless advocate, an innovative artist, and a disruptor of the status quo. Sainte-Marie has spent her whole life creating, and her artistry, humanitarian efforts, and indigenous leadership have made her a unique force in the music industry. In 1969, she made one of the world's first electronic vocal albums. In 1982, she became the only indigenous person to win an Oscar. She spent 5 years on Sesame Street, where she became the first woman to breastfeed on national television. She's been blacklisted and silenced. She's written pop standards sung and recorded by the likes of Janis Joplin, Elvis Presley, Donovan, Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warnes. She penned Universal Soldier, the definitive anti-war anthem of the 20th century. She is an icon who keeps one foot firmly planted on either side of the North American border in the unsurrendered territories that comprise Canada and the USA. In today's climate of damaging #fake news and toxic hubris, Buffy Saint-Marie's incisive honesty, clarity, and intelligent compassion stand out in sharp relief. Buffy Saint-Marie doesn't sugarcoat the truth, nor does she shy away from hard realities. But Medicine Songs is never overwhelming or oppressive. Rather than making us feel smaller, sadder, or more cynical, Buffy Saint-Marie makes us feel stronger and more capable of seeing the world around us clearly. Part rhythmic healing, part trumpeting wake-up call, Medicine Songs is the soundtrack for the resistance. Whether written by her or part of her staff, a glowing appraisal which paints her as a talented musician and songwriter, a Canadian icon, an individual who has very much stood on her indigenous ancestry for the purposes of utilizing that to find fame and fortune, but also as part of her philanthropic works. From that description, you would think that you were describing a rather wonderful, warm, caring, yet warrior-like individual that advocates for the rights of those in relation to the indigenous population of North America. Notwithstanding this glowing appraisal of her life so far, things took a darker turn more recently, as reported by the BBC, that Canada's public broadcaster has published a bombshell investigation that calls into doubt the indigenous ancestry of Buffy Saint-Marie. I will, of course, be examining that investigation in due course. The folk singer and activist who rose to fame in the 1960s has long claimed indigenous ancestry from Canada. She has said she was adopted by a white American couple as a baby. But a CBC investigation claims to have found a birth certificate they say suggests her adoptive parents are actually her biological parents. In a response published ahead of the CBC story, Sainte-Marie called the allegations hurtful, adding, "I know who I am." Sainte-Marie has previously said that she found she may have been adopted from members of the Piapot First Nation in Saskatchewan during the 60s scoop, which is a term used to describe how thousands of Indigenous children in Canada were forcibly removed from their families during the middle of the last century. She connected with members of the community as a young woman, and they adopted her as a young adult. Ahead of the CBC investigation, members of the Piapot First Nation issued a statement of support, saying, "Buffy is our family. I don't know where I'm from or who my birth parents were, and I will never know," Sainte-Marie said in her statement, which is why to be questioned in this way today is painful, both for me and for my two families I love so dearly. I am proud of my Indigenous American identity and the deep ties I have to Canada and my Piapot family, she said in a statement released recently. CBC says that it's found her birth certificate identifying her as Beverly Jean Sainte-Marie, born to Albert and Winifred Sainte-Marie, who declared their race as white on the document. The issue, of course, of who is indigenous and who is not has received much attention in recent years. A number of high-profile artists and scholars have had their indigenous ancestry, including Canadian author Joseph Boyden, called into question. Many indigenous communities view false representation of their identity as deeply problematic. It's theft of opportunities, resources. It's theft of our stories. Kim Tallbear, a professor of Native Studies at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, told the CBC. For her part, Sainte-Marie maintains she has never misrepresented herself, but acknowledges that some facts may have been hard to prove. In her statement, she says that her mother told her she was adopted and that she was Indigenous, but there was no documentation, as that was common for Indigenous children born in the 1940s. She said that as a young adult, she was adopted into the Piapot family in accordance with Cree law and customs. In a statement of support for Auntie Buffy, the Piapot family called the accusations hurtful, ignorant, colonial, and racist. We grew up knowing that Buffy and our grandparents adopted each other, and how deeply committed and loving they were to one another, they wrote. We chose her and she chose us. We claim her as a member of our family, and all of our family members are from the Piapot First Nation. For my entire life, I've championed Indigenous and Native American causes when nobody else would or had the platform to do so, Sainte-Marie's statement added. Thus, the controversy is, has she lied about her ancestry? Might it be the case that she was unaware and has honestly believed that she is of this ancestry, only for it now to be determined that she is not, but it was an honest held belief? Is it the case that these allegations have no substance and, as has been suggested by the Piapot First Nation, that they are hurtful and ignorant, colonial and racist allegations? Might it be that she has portrayed herself as being of Indigenous ancestry, knowing that actually she is not, only finding that out later, but determined, well, I'm in so deep, I'm going to have to carry on the pretense? Might it be that she's always known and simply didn't care, seeing this as an opportunity to utilize Indigenous ancestry as a unique selling point, to catapult herself to fame and fortune through her music and through her campaigning? Is it the case that she truly believes it, and, whilst it isn't the case, that she's operating under a delusion? And where do all of those particular scenarios fit into in terms of what is she? Is it the case that if she has maintained this pretense, being a pretendian, the term that's the portmanteau which is used for pretend Indian, is it the case that this places her within the category of narcissist? What are we dealing with? Well, as you know, I'd categorize people as a standard basic categorization into one of four categories to help you understand what their behavior means. There are the empaths, individuals that have considerable emotional empathy for a wide range of individuals, who have empathic traits and narcissistic traits, but their empathic traits are stronger than their narcissistic traits. These individuals are not hardwired to manipulate. Instead, they are driven by the emotional empathy that governs their actions. They also have an addiction to narcissists. Next, there are the normals, the largest group on the planet, individuals who also have emotional empathy, albeit for a smaller group of people, and will either not have it or have it in limited amounts for people outside of that group dependent upon circumstance. These individuals also have empathic and narcissistic traits, but generally not as strong as empaths or narcissists. These individuals do not have an addiction to the narcissist, and whilst they can be ensnared by a narcissist, this tends to be far less common. Next, there are narcissistic people, but they're not narcissists. Generally selfish and self-absorbed individuals who have limited emotional empathy and are very much focused upon themselves, with very strong narcissistic traits and limited and weak empathic traits. They can be manipulative, invariably know that they're being manipulative, but they're not governed by a pathological pursuit of the prime aims. Finally, there is the group of narcissists, individuals who have no emotional empathy, some of which who have cognitive empathy, individuals who pursue the prime aims, mainly unaware, some aware, with regard to the need for control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. Individuals who are always manipulating others when it comes to interactions with other human beings. Individuals who have no empathic traits and a range of narcissistic traits. Where might Buffy Saint-Marie fall into with regard to those four categories? Is the fact that she has apparently maintained a pretense of being of indigenous ancestry over many decades indicative of the behaviour of a narcissist, or might it be something else? What about her other behaviours? How has she conducted herself during her life compared to this purported pretense? Well, we're going to dive in and find out, taking material from a variety of different sources in order to make a determination as to what she might be. I'd invite you to join me, as it's a useful opportunity to not only understand what she is, but also to test your own understanding and knowledge of my work as you apply it to the material as I take you through it. Those of you who are familiar with the Tudorscope analyses will understand that I present you with a variety of evidence and point out that it could support one thing or it might support another. That is the whole point, that information on itself can be viewed in lots of different ways, and what we're looking at is an overall picture. One cannot make a determination off one act alone. One has to look at behaviour in a variety of instances from a variety of evidential sources over a sustained period of time. So, join me, H.G. Tudor, as we put Buffy Saint-Marie under the Tudorscope to determine, is she a narcissist or something else?